No?
You could, actually, that is nice.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're so happy to have you both here, and we're sorry to see Jen go. She certainly did so much to contribute to the town, and wow, she was amazing during COVID, and this also really helped contribute to the well-being of our residents. And but we wish her well. I understand she's doing great, and so Gino, you're very generously have stepped into that role, and we're happy to have you. And I know Shannon's going to make our report today, so that's very nice. Very nice. Okay. Oh, we should approve the minutes. Yes. I always forget that. Yeah. Let's start out by approving the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve them?
Move to accept.
And any change or anything? No, any suggestions? Okay. We're going to move to accept. I like that. All in favor? That's good too. All right. Did you guys vote up there? Thank you. Okay. So yeah, so let's go ahead and start with your report. Shannon, you want to go ahead and you're going to give the health department report?
Oh,
Yeah, so what I did was break it down into our environmental health section and our community health section, which is what Jen used to do pretty much. So if you guys had any questions, we had 31 building permits and COs. We approved a lot more in the last 2 days since I've made this report, probably roughly 7 to 8 more, I would say. We had 17 restaurant inspections performed. We had 24 temporary food service permits issued.
And those actually went up as well.
Yep. And then 6 septic inspections, 8 soil testing, 8 septic plan reviews and approvals. 4 septic permits were issued. We had 8 housing and nuisance complaints investigated. Some involved a rodent situation. If you have any questions for Gino about that.
What kind of rodent?
Live rat.
Yeah.
We, yeah, just pests. 2 inland wetland application reviews and approvals. We had 1 planning and zoning application we needed to review. We have 24 ticks submitted. We had a lot more in the last 2-3 days. We have roughly 11 pending results, if not more. But what came back positive was 7 for Lyme disease, 2 had anaplasmosis, and 2 had babiosis.
That seems like that's up from
Oh, it's always, every year it tends to be up.
in the spring.
Yeah, and
Tallahassee virus or something like that, which is a really horrible illness.
not of the ticks tested in New Canaan. We had 3 new food service establishment plans that Gino did walkthroughs with. And then we had 7 sidewalk permits issued, which is exciting because it's springtime.
Been more since this.
Yeah, again,
Those are for the outdoor dining? Or-
Yeah.
outdoor dining on Elm Street,
Right.
and a little on Main Street in
Forest.
Forest. For community health numbers,
Before you go,
yes.
I tried to explain to somebody who's from out of town how many restaurants we have here and food service operations. And I said, well, when we moved here 30 years ago, there were only 4.
Yeah.
Now I know there's somewhere in the 30s. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
It's
how
deceiving.
many
They were all.
places do we inspect now?
Around 90.
Yeah.
90.
That includes,
Stations.
I'm sorry. You
No,
can-
yeah, gas stations he has to do.
That includes gas stations, like,
Oh, sure.
food permits itself, yeah, around in that ballpark. Every year it fluctuates. Places close down, we get more places, so it's in that ballpark.
But for
Yeah, for these
purposes of for-pay restaurants, how many would that be at this point?
And we still say.
For pay
Yeah,
restaurants.
oh,
How many?
for profit, same amount, and that,
We have a lot.
I've
Here's
never
my-
been.
A lot of food stuff.
You have to remember, like, there's Tony's, there's Greens on the Go, there's like
Yeah.
a mobile station that
Well,
has
and it
coffee
seems
and
like now we
Danish.
have like 3 more
There's Grace
bakeries, 3
Farms.
more bakeries, right?
Yeah,
Grace Farms all the way to
Oh.
Mobile Gas Station on the Merritt,
so I don't mind.
you know.
Oh, wow.
With those,
Big territory.
sorry.
All of her phones are going off at the same time.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
people usually think that it's just like right on Main Street, but there's my Silver Mine.
Silver Mine Market.
Oh, right. You got the market and the hotel there.
They have to look at the Waveney and the schools.
Good.
I just, I don't know how far you want us to go deep into this.
But for our community health numbers, We started back up walking club in April. I want to say I have around over 20 members registered for it. But depending on the day and everyone's mood for the day, we get kind of a mixed number of attendance. Like one day I had 11, and then I got busy and I had to have a substitute fill in for me. And those days we had like 3 or 4 people come, but once the weather is nicer, I'm expecting it to be between like 10 and 15 again, which was what it was last summer. Ellen and I are doing health screenings at the Lapham Center still and Schoolhouse. She does the blood sugar, the blood pressure. She listens to your heart. She does some prescription consultations on if they need it. At the end of the day, though, she isn't a doctor, so it's usually always prefaced with the fact that they need to see their medical professional. But the people we have going regularly to the health screenings are individuals that are struggling with their numbers. So they are struggling with regulating their blood pressure and their blood sugar. But there's some people that are just curious. They're one time, they stop in just to get a base index level. The next thing we had was our caregiver support panel at the Lapham Center that had around 42 people come, give or take 3 or 4 people. I tried to do my best to run the event and to keep attendance, but I always miss around 2-3 people. So all these numbers are like give or take a little, 1 plus 1 minus 1. Yeah, it was a full house. Marcy was there.
So I guess mostly like spouses or children or?
It was a mix. I saw a lot of adult children that were definitely caregivers for their parents, I'm assuming. And then there was couples there. There was quite a few couples, and then there was just individuals who were just curious. But yeah, I got a lot of good feedback actually from that event. A lot of the people that attended actually reached out to me to let me know that they reached out to some of the panelists we had there. We had Oasis Senior Living, we had Elder House, we had the Lifted Brain Wellness Center, which is new. It's in Norwalk. It's less focused on caring for the actual person, more like a brain wellness center to just improve your cognitive ability. Is that the best way to describe it? It's like more like therapeutic. They have light therapy, sound therapy. And it's for someone of all ages. You don't have to be a senior, and you don't have to have
You don't need any impairment. It's
Any
kind of like a
impairment.
gym for your brain.
yeah.
It's
a gym for
your-
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
Like I was like
Like
I was
a
looking
spa-
into it.
A
Like
spa for your brain, maybe. And then the next event we had was Navigator was there too. Oh, and that Kathleen's been great. Kathleen from the
she must-
Navigator.
She must have gotten some referrals from that. I mean, some people that.
Oh,
joined the
yeah.
program.
And we needed to. I had people there that me and Marcy were like, they need support. And after they attended the event, they definitely had all their questions answered. So that kind of.
And I just want to add on that you guys do a great job. We're up to 78 people now in the
Wow.
Navigator program for people with Alzheimer's, dementia, and their caregivers just in New Canaan alone. So that's a.
Fantastic. Are you thinking about spreading beyond New Canaan or not right now?
Wow.
Well, I mean, we're still
You're-
having
you're-
calls, and issues, and then some families wait to the last minute, when a significant change in behavior occurs.
Yeah.
Some of our friends who
Yeah.
have, waited and waited, have finally joined when they get into a crisis time. But yeah, it's great to see some of these programs are building demand and actually getting involved with this. And it's a huge problem. It's not as our population ages, I think we're approaching 16%, right? Over 65. It's just going to get worse. So we want to make sure we have the services there
That's great.
for them.
That's a great resource. And it's
Yeah.
free too, right? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and
Price is right.
and either the caregiver or the patient has to be in New Canaan. So either one. So there, you do have some people that are outside of New Canaan,
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
But it's for residents.
But yeah, someone has to be a resident.
Right.
And then the next program we had was our monthly coffee talks, which I do with Ellen, our public health nurse. This one I did is Your Home Making You Sick. I talked about home toxins and how basically to detox your home. We had 13 participants come to that. And then next coffee talk, we're going to be doing on tick-borne illness. I always try to time a tick-borne illness talk either in the spring or summer because we've been having a lot of tick calls and questions. And then we had our QPR suicide prevention training. I cap the the number of registers, help me, someone. Jesus, to 10, because to 10, because I like having small groups. I once did a 30 QPR suicide prevention training and I felt like it was a little less manageable and people were less likely to share experiences and stories, and 10's kind of a sweet spot. I was not able to advertise this QPR because I was still learning Everbridge. So that's probably why that number is a little bit lower than it normally is. But I learned, Riskimes has showed me. So next month I will be sending out advertisements to all these programs and talks. It's just a little transition issue happening. And then we did not give any vaccines this month, which is pretty normal. And we had 2 private health consults with Ellen. I think one was a situation where there was an elderly woman and she needed an injection administered, and it's something, a medication that is able to be given at home, but the individual didn't feel comfortable. So we worked with their primary care physician to have Ellen come administer the medication to them.
Great.
Yeah. Any questions for me?
Does anybody have any questions for Gino too about all the,
Yeah.
do you do anything you'd like to add?
Well, I just want, does anybody have any questions regarding our transition? About,
Sure, yeah. I mean, we don't have questions, but we'd love to hear about it, yeah.
well, it's just that I believe the new director will be coming along about June 9th.
Okay, so
Okay.
there is a new director.
I don't know if I'm able to say the name.
Wait, I hold off.
This
That's
director-
Deanna's news.
Well, I'm sorry, I apologize. I wear hearing aids, so if I keep saying,
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that's okay.
it's me,
That's
not you.
fine. That's great to know.
This director that will be coming in, where they're from, it's a mirror image to New Canaan. So it's gonna be an easy transition.
Great.
Basically, during the interview, all the community health numbers, I mean, not numbers, the programs. I'm like, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I think she copied us. So it's like, what I'm saying is, it's gonna be easy transition for her. She knows exactly what this town needs, and it's same size health department. So
Great.
I don't see it being smooth sailing.
All right,
What's that?
we're gonna go sleuth now and figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And I've known her for about 15 years, so.
So great. So you are excited about it. You feel.
Yeah, very excited.
That's great news. That was very, very quick. Great work on. part of it.
Several months ago, I think some of the older properties received notification about their water lines and whether or not there was lead in the water lines, anything. Is there any follow-up material on that? Because I did not receive any publicity that I was aware of in town that we had some historical homes with historical districts, but we also have homes that potentially had lead piping running as their water source.
That is more of an aquarium question.
Yeah.
You know, we.
Well, they're the ones that notified the
Yes,
families.
we,
Yeah. They called us and I'm like, I go, wow.
that's just a
okay.
notification that they normally send out to public. And just a FYI, we're working on lines. This might be a case, but I think it might grew legs and got bigger than what it is. But any homes that are older than 1978 tend to have older piping. So unless they replace them, but when you have older piping, you know, there might be lead solder in there. That's the key to it. So.
Right.
we didn't,
So you haven't heard anything back from Aquarian?
Me and him have had no communication with them.
Really?
About it
Wow.
since
The first,
this.
Yeah, since their first
Yeah.
birthday, contact our officer, what should they do? We recommend that you could always have your water tested.
Yeah.
But since then, nothing has come out towards me where we have lead, what should we do? You
Yeah.
know, Scenario.
okay.
It's a good question.
And then just some things to note, we have a skin cancer screening for first responders happening with a local dermatology group, Elite Dermatology. The dermatologist is named Elle Demal. She volunteers a lot of her free time to do skin cancer screenings with some of our residents. She does one at the schoolhouse. She comes to the schoolhouse apartments and does it every 6 months. And now she's offering up a Saturday to do first responders, specifically firefighters, since they're more likely to have skin cancer. And that's going to be 9 to 12 on May 17th. And Ellen and I are going to just be there for support and just help operate just make things kind of flow better since we've done so many and we have it down pretty well now. And then Gino and I are going to a lead inspector / risk assessor training. That's a mouthful. May 21st. And then me and Ellen are going to a suicide prevention conference on May 8th. And that is just helpful since we do the suicide prevention trainings once a month. So I'll let you know how that goes. And I think that's all for us.
Okay, so-
Great. What are you gonna have your intern do?
Oh, actually, the intern is going to be very excited because I have a lot of fun things. So first I have to figure out if they're more interested in the engineering side of this or the community health side and medical side. So depending what they're more interested in, they could either stick with me and Ellen or hang out with Gino and follow him around at soil testing. But there's a lot of cool new projects I'm trying to start to
Great.
move
And
things
also
around.
this coming month, all the pools, community pools,
All
that's
right.
the past 2 years with interns, something I brought them out with me. And then in June, we start renewing the permits for salons.
Oh, right.
And
Gosh,
so,
starting that again, right? Like you just started that. Yeah.
yes, yeah, it's a yearly thing.
Never ending story.
Never ending.
Uh,
It's just
never
every
ending
month,
story.
I'm very, my schedule's always planned out in advance, so.
Wow. Well, thank you. It's good to hear a little bit more about what you do and.
Well, yeah, I've been doing this for 27 years, so I've been around the block.
You seem to have it down, yeah.
Right? So with Jen leaving, we are fine. It was just a few things that we had to work on, just get extra coverage for now. Once I'm an intern director for a month, and then, but I know Mindy from Darien. I've known her for a good 15 plus years as well. Actually just met her a couple days ago I drove to Darien so we're on the same page in case something happens. I have her cell phone, stuff like that, so.
Great.
So it sounds like we just stole somebody else from Darien.
Oh, no, Mindy's just said, she's like,
Temporary.
she's the temporary, like when the health director's
Well, it's
gone,
Larson.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's,
No, Mindy's not going anywhere.
yeah. Left you out. Well, thank you. This is great. Thank you, guys. It's nice to.
From all of us, I know I can speak for all of us, we so much appreciate and respect and everything you guys do
Thank you.
for our town and to keep us healthy, so thank you all.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
That's absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So,
And if you, and you have, I'm phone call away, any questions, just reach out.
great. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that.
Careless ticks.
So gross.
So good. All right.
You're welcome.
So we'd like to hear your report. Human
Hello,
Services report.
yep, Marcy Rand from Human Services. Our adult and senior clients are slowly inching up. We have 237, it's actually 238. I got another one yesterday. Youth and family, 166 families with 168 children. Our domestic violence cases are so far this quarter 2. Protective services and referrals from EMS have been 3 for the month of April. And the 2 that I am working with protective services are actually, they're not caregivers or they're actually, it's family involvement that is not going
Okay.
as smoothly as it should. So unfortunately, that is happening. There are a lot of adult children who are moving back to homes that
So you're working with the
elderly parents.
state. You're working with the state.
Yeah, when there is concerns from like a doctor's office or something and they make a referral, the social workers from the state usually contact me and we go out together. Because then they kind of end up being my clients, and it's nice to like be able to see them and introduce myself so they don't think they're just gonna be. Let's see, the food pantry, we expect that to be quite busy already. Just the first month of the fourth quarter, we had 137 meals served, 90 shoppers. My support groups are going strong. We have 14 in my Life Reimagined every month, and then we have 12 in the bereavement group, which is weekly. So yeah, and they come weekly, and we have 2 new. It's getting a little bit big. I may have to take up your library 2 days a week or something, because it is getting a little bit big. We have 2 new people. So we may have to split it into like 7 and 7, or keep the original group and then make a new smaller group. So total for the fourth quarter for the month of April was 72 participants. Our vulnerable population list is about the same, went down 1. And renters rebate just started. I've only had 6 so far, but they have gotten $2,600. And last but not least, I won't go through all of like my meetings and stuff, but I am going to become certified as a mental health first aid instructor. We had the mental health first aid, Dawn came like 3 years ago. I don't know if, were you at that program? You can get certified in mental health first aid and be aware of like ways of sort of de-escalating and that kind of thing. But I'm going to become an instructor, so then I can provide that like every 6 months to town hall or to first responders, or just, you know, and it'll be open to the public.
How
So
long would the course be? If you could?
it's 3 days from 9 to 5.
Oh,
So
gosh.
it's just, yeah. I think a lot of it is probably what I'm familiar with. I just think there's like a formula on how to like teach this program. So I'm gonna do that, and then
Does it start like de-escalation? I mean.
and recognizing what mental health looks like, and recognizing if somebody, you know, is like mentally
Yeah.
ill or is just kind of like being a jerk, or, you know, I mean, it's so like people from the Get About will come and take the course. Anyone, really anyone who deals with the public, people who work in banks, people who work here in town hall, anyone who can, you know, be available to sort of recognize when somebody's sort of spiraling, and then what to do without panicking or making it worse. So that, and that
So
is
would be offering courses in mental health?
what I'm
first
gonna,
aid?
well, yes, it'll be probably either every 6 months or once a year. I would like to see myself do it maybe at the library once a year for just the public to come. And I think because the more people who are just sort of more empathetic and more aware of what mental health and what crisis looks like is better, you know? So I think that's really important. And then the town won't have to pay for Dawn to come.
It's kind of
They'll
similar
have
to
me.
similar to the QPR training, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I
This-
actually took the course and I use it because when you're in health and when you're interacting with that many people, you're going to come across someone that's just stressed at some points, and it's never something crazy, but I did develop the skills to recognize, okay, this person's having a problem, and it's just so much, you're not really counseling them, you're just de-escalating and calming them down so that the situation doesn't become more vile, if I explain that correctly.
That sounds valuable. Maybe you can report back a little bit on that.
Yes, I think it's going to be in the end of May. I have to
Sign up, you have to register.
I have to register, and I have to find the tax-free certificate that, you know, so
Right.
it's going to just take me a couple days, but yes.
So I just have one question. The caffeine and carburetors, is that a
Oh
new
my
program?
gosh, I'm so embarrassed that I didn't say anything about that. Yes, that is a new
Don't be
program.
embarrassed.
I am embarrassed because like, sorry, Caffeine and Carburetors, if you guys watch it.
Probably not.
No, you never know. So they are working with the Community Foundation, and it's going to be through Touch a Life. And we've already had 4 people contact us. They will have a financial assessment done through us. And then we will call CNH Automotive, and CNH Automotive will either go to the house to take a look at the car, or they will make an appointment and they will make the repair. Then they invoice us and we invoice Touch a Life. And we are just so excited because we literally have had 4 people get their cars fixed already. And it's so important because we don't think of like an oil change or anything as like a big deal, but it is because, if like you need a new tire and you can't get to work, or if like a fuse is funny and you can't start your car and you can't get your kid to, daycare or something, then
It's a
you
crisis.
can't pay your rent, it sort of trickles down. So this was just so needed and we are so thrilled.
And that's Doug Zumbach is doing that. I think he's raising money privately and then contributing.
And then, I think they're through the registration fees, they're going to be giving like half to us and half to the Waveney
Oh, that's
Conservancy, I think is what.
Oh, wow. Oh, because they're doing the,
So yes,
road
thank
shows.
you for remembering.
yeah, no, that was new. I read about it and I thought it sounded like a
Yeah,
great
it's
idea.
wonderful. We're
Yeah.
psyched.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mercy? You guys up there, do you have any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to move on to our official kind of commission business, which is appointment of a seniors behavioral health committee. And Jim, of course, Jim is going to talk a little bit about where's Jim? There he is, right here. We're going to talk a little bit about his project and how it's going, because you've had a meeting, right? And you're going to give us an update. Because of it's a program that is essentially a subcommittee. It's a subcommittee of the commission. And so we just have to do a formal appointment of it. So thank you to everyone who's agreed to participate. And I guess,
Ferguson is on there. Raquel is going to be an ad hoc.
oh, okay. All right, well, then I think, you can't make the proposal. Do you want to propose?
I'm on it. I can't.
Oh, you can't either. Okay. Well, all right, I will do it. So I would like to propose that we appoint a seniors behavioral health committee with Jim Lisher as the chair, and John Knight and Alyssa McKenzie and Tom Ferguson as members, and Raquel Harrison as an alternate. Or is that what you said? Kind of an alternate.
Advisor.
Advisor, yeah. Okay, so do I have thank you. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Our first subcommittee. Very exciting. All right, Jim, you want to bring us up to date?
Yeah, basically, there's a sheet handout that'll give you a sense of things. We had an organizational meeting a couple of weeks ago with the consultant, which is how we needed the committee motion in order to spend money. We're going to use the $4,700 that we talked about at the last meeting that was left over from Telemed to hire the outside consultant who did the original study for the town last year, and who's going to drill down in seniors. And she's going to start physically next week, and we'll meet as a committee in about a month to take a look at what she's come up with. We're going to supplement that work with looking at a lot of resources which are listed on the back of this sheet that we've accumulated that are secondary studies. And one that I'll be particularly interested in having applied is a thing that I came about through AARP. 26 billion data points in the study. I've never heard of a study that big, but it's based on medical records, 2019 to 23, I believe. And so it's a relatively good thing. And it shows the growth of senior mental health needs very definitively, and we'll not go any further. But we have some good stuff going on in terms of looking at trends nationally and statewide, as well as in the town. And we'll hold all that up against the window, as it were, and come up with some recommendations or conclusions and recommendations. I also take you back to the agenda page to take a look at the last times or the times that this commission has been involved in seniors policy and programs and fairly definitively. And starting in 15 years ago, in 2010, we put together a seniors look for the next 20 years for the town of New Canaan. Tom and I were on that. And out of that came a number of things, not the least of which was the appreciation of how important the seniors are to the fabric, cultural, social, and financial of this town.
Mhm.
So we 23 benches that are scattered around the walking spaces of New Canaan was one physical piece of evidence that that we put out, and the commission raised the money privately for that. Out of that came the telehealth program, which at one time was 300 members, and we unplugged last year because we weren't getting enough ongoing base. But a number of people have learned the habit of walking, exercising, keeping track of their blood pressure and their pulse and all the other good stuff that keeps you ticking. And most importantly, the weight. As you all know, there's the obesity problem that we discovered in 2010 has not gone away. If you've been to an airport anytime recently, you just shake your head, or any place where there's a large gathering. Anyway, and then we produced the Connected Mind and Body thing as a commission project a couple of years ago. That was in response to seniors' needs for the COVID-driven problems, but actually impacted everybody. And we did that with Silver Hill. And urgent assessment now is out, and now the New Canaan Wellbeing Study. So we're going to take advantage of the core of this committee activity is looking at retabbing that study to look in a deep drill as to what some impacts are, surround it with state and federal research that's available, and then make some recommendations. So that's the net of where we're headed. We're planning on finishing by the 1st of September or by mid-September at the latest, and we'll report out at either the September commission meeting or October what we're going to recommend. And that's it. It's off and running. And again, this study, which is relatively unique to New Canaan. However, the vendor or the consultant has done a similar study for 2 other cities in the state. And therefore, she accumulated her own bank of secondary information. So we have some learning curves going for us, and I'm looking forward to working with Tom and John and Alyssa and everybody here. By the way, the reason I gave you the list of secondary resources, everybody here is on the committee, so to speak, because you should be reading and looking for things that have to do with senior mental health and send them along. And anyway, it's going to be important now that we have a resident psychiatrist, or we'll have 2 actually.
Yeah, you got
for the commission. Why maybe we can expand that to. But now it's a very timely activity, and particularly timely for the commission to undertake.
Absolutely. No, we really appreciate your leadership of it. I want to add one thing is because I remember from the 2010 study that the other thing that seniors really communicate to or contribute to the community is their time as volunteers in the nonprofit world, and also funding for those as well. I think that's a really important thing that people really underestimate how valuable that is, the hours that many of us put in. Thank you, Jim. That's great. Does anybody have any questions? No. All right. Well, then before we start, I'm going to turn it over to CARES. I just wanted to call attention to these things, that one of which Colleen gave me, which is just, we always talk about resources and how they're available. And, we have our own, the commission has its own resources that are published online. And we also have this wonderful thing from the CARES about it's okay not to be okay, and lists several options. And then also I just picked this up at the library, the assessment program at Silver Hill. So already got a whole new brochure and, you know, outlining. So everybody's moving very quickly, which I have a lot of respect for. So welcome, Colleen and Maureen. We're so excited. Oh, you brought some too? Oh my gosh. All right, well, there you go. Do you want to introduce yourselves? We're so happy to have you here to talk about what you do with CARES.
Each and every one of you, and I met you the other day, so now I'm really up to date. Colleen Croster, Executive Director of New Canaan Cares. This summer I'll be finishing up my second year, so I know you graciously invited me last year. I was a newbie, just smiling and learning, and finishing up our second year. We've had a great year, a lot of momentum coming our way. We could be moving closer to each and every one of you this summer.
You're in Irwin House right now.
We're currently in the Irwin House. We all know what's kind of talking about in our community with that. Deanna and Tucker have graciously showed me some office space at the Vine Cottage on the second floor. And yeah, so we'll, you know, wait to see how it all progresses, but we're really excited about coming back into town. I always think about, you know, Main and Elm being Manhattan and all of us being in the burg, like we're in the burbs, you know, or we're in Brooklyn, but we have a lot of elbow room where we are right now, but we don't have that visibility that we're looking to get back, like when we were on the second floor of Oakland. So we're very excited about that. And also with my third year coming, and I'll have Maureen introduce herself, I just think there's so much room for collaboration and strategic planning as a community, so we can, you know, sync up and, you know, suicide prevention's covered, check. Okay, who's doing that? You know, mental health education, check. You know, Maureen teaches Narcan training, check. You know, it can really just be so much more strategic around who's doing what for our community. Where can we collaborate more? Where are there holes? So I'm really excited about that. I'll let Maureen introduce herself.
Okay, I'm Maureen Mansell. I am the Education and Program Manager. So I've been with CARES for 3 years now, yeah, a little bit more. And I have a background in public health, but I'm new to, I will say, community public health over the last few years. I have a background, I worked at Pfizer prior to, and some other, so I was more on the corporate side.
So Maureen's finishing up her third year. Next year will be her fourth year. I'm finishing up my second into my third. And we have one other staff member that's finishing her first year, Jen Russi, who's a New Canaan resident. And she does our marketing and communications. She's really helped us kind of get our story out and share kind of what we're doing, why we're doing it with the community. And it's been really, really great. So we look forward to, you know, kind of growing in the future. So I just wanted to share, I hope all of you know that we hosted Chris Herron at the end of March and worked with community partners to do a program during the day for all New Canaan High School students and an evening parent and community program at the library. Both events were standing room only. I know Chris has been here in the past, but we just find that a lot of these conversations, whether you use the same speaker or not, different people are ready for that message at different times. We're ready to receive it.
Colleen, will you tell the group who Chris Herron is?
Sure. He is a former NBA basketball player around like the 2000 mark who struggled severely with addiction. You know, believes he died a few times along the way. And once he got sober and clean, he's dedicated himself to becoming a national speaker on this topic. And his whole message is around, especially for the students, let's not talk about addiction.
Can you hear? Can you guys hear us? We don't have audio anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're all,
Sorry.
How about now?
When did you lose us?
Just right when I said something, it just cut out.
Okay.
Thank you.
they're all red.
Okay, maybe everyone has
Yeah,
to
and
put
I
them?
said we did this.
Oh, just talking?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from Chris Herron's standpoint, kind of who he is or who he?
No, I think it's just being able to have a conversation and have, so part of CARES's mission is how we educate the community. So it's bringing in a keynote speaker such as Chris Herron, but it's also having subsequent conversations afterwards, because in public health, it's, you know, maybe the big speaker is not necessarily the best way to get the information across, but I also think that it does spark the idea for people to take notice. And then, you know, the other night we had a vaping talk with the SRO at the middle school, and we brought someone from Yale, and we had 60 people, but I'd say the majority were kids. So, you know, of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So that's sort of what CARES' model is trying to do with educating on this, you know.
And I'll
this
just
particular
share these. So
topic.
Maureen, you know, Masters of Public Health and wanting to have community conversations created, I call it a digital handout, which we sent digitally to all the registrants for the program and then subsequently in our newsletter. And, you know, as Maureen was saying, that the national speaker in our eyes introduces the topic to our community, and then we'd like conversations to continue at home. And we're really happy that the high school students were able to see Chris during the day, parents and community members at night, and conversations can be started. So Maureen's handout really talks, trying to really hit on the,
I mean, it's kind of everything you want to know, but it's just something that we can actually take from over the course of the year. And
Well, it seems like the timing was kind of coincidentally excellent, given the results of the health and well-being survey were published almost at the same time as he came, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, and yeah, that's definitely, I think, you know, we're trying to have the pulse on what's happening locally and also nationally. So when we're, you know, we've had 4 major speakers at this point over the last 2 years, and that's kind of what we're going to continue to do. And, you know, we're trying to understand what is happening so that we can bring the conversation here and have it be relevant, that people take notice. So
One of the questions that I get, and it's maybe just a little confusing for me, maybe it's not for others here, but I'll be the test case, is there's so many different numbers to call, and is there one number to call? Because I know that there is for Silver Hill, there's the 801-2390, there is the 988 lifeline, there is a 211 hotline, there is a 1-8445 say now hotline. What is, you know, is help us give the word out in terms of the confusion. That's what I'm reading.
what we tried to do on here was like, step 1, reach out to a trusted adult, right? Whether you're at school, you're at home, you know, who are you going to reach out to?
So
right?
instead of
These were
resources for teens,
students.
these are actually
Right.
steps that you would say. I mean,
It's somebody's comfort level, right? Like I always think of 988. I don't think I would be comfortable, I don't know, in crisis mode, right? Just
Right.
calling a national line
right,
personally, right?
Right.
So again, our community is so rich in resources and help between assessment program at Silver Hill, team talk counselors at the schools, counselors at each and every school, right? I think it's a comfort level for people. There are options, especially
Okay.
in our community.
so what would you recommend? I mean, you're professionals. Which number would you recommend that is the first call, if you will?
If I were a student, and if this is for teens,
Right.
it would be, you know, a personal relationship that you have. You are not alone. We talked about this a lot in the fall here in our community. Never worry alone. You're not alone, right? There's people like Bill Egan ends like every weekly, you know, have a great holiday with, we love you, you know, like our kids are loved from a community and all of our kids are all of our kids. So I would say reach out to a trusted adult first, whether that's somebody within the school system or.
If there's
Externally.
issues at home and, you know, you're communicating this with the children as well.
Right.
Is there a number that the kids, you know, the kids, let's say younger adults,
Right.
what would
I think
you have
then it
them
would
number?
probably go, I don't know, this is kind of what we thought, the kids team talk counselor, because they have that working relationship with Martha at the school. And then the teen talk counselor hotline, Kids in Crisis, goes to that next step.
yeah.
It
The
will
kids
be-
in crisis, the 203-661-1911.
Yeah, and the way that that model works with kids in crisis is, yes, there is a person in the school that you can that the kids can reach out to. And there is that telephone number that you can call also. But what also happens is the teen talk counselor at the school understands the kids that they're having a relationship with, and say on weekends or in the summer, they're talking to kids in crisis at their location. So the person who's answering the phone also might know about the kid at New Canaan High School. So there is this collaboration going on between the person who's on the ground at the school and the organization and receiving the call. So there, it's sort of, especially in the summer, because there's 2 months where there's no teen talk counselor. So that is a great resource, but I also think the urgent assessment, just that we need to socialize it and normalize it within New Canaan, and taking away the word urgent makes people think that they can just call if they're like, I have this issue with my kid,
Right.
and so urgent assessment should be something that we,
Not urgent, just an
Yeah,
assessment
as
program
that's
at
an
Silver Hill.
program.
Stop.
it's something that, like, as you guys are trying to do from your end, it's just like normalizing mental health and just, hey, I got,
Right.
I'm not really sure what's going on here. Maybe I should just ask someone who has an expertise.
I think Silver Hill is, remarketing themselves to say, even if you have a question, like, where does this lie on the spectrum of crisis, or I'm just confused, right? They're willing to help, and they're willing to help receive that, to say, this is something we'd like to do an assessment on and refer you, or this may be.
I understand, and I don't want to belabor that there's 1,000 different touch points, right? You have, when we look at our suicidal ideation rates and we see what periods of time that they happen throughout the year, you can see, okay, around the time of the SAT, stress levels are going up. The time that they're graduating, or they're starting college, or they just came home from college. There are trigger points that happen throughout the year if you look at some of the seasonal adjustments. And I'm just want to make sure that I'm clear when someone asks me, what is the appropriate research? And here's the one number that you call at this level, or as that young adult, 17 through 22, what is the one number that you can call to start your.
I don't think there is any, like you said, any one number. I think, though, that as long as parents and children know of the numbers, I know that there are a lot of parents who are like not equipped at all. Like, if a child all of a sudden goes into crisis, and this is like Joey, who's on the soccer team, nothing's ever been wrong, and now he's like spiraling, and you know what? Call 211. They're incredible. Like, they will get in on it, and they will, they'll talk to Joey. And so I think it really depends, like you said, on what the child is familiar with and what the parents are familiar with. And so if it's not in a parent's wheelhouse, or they don't know of a therapist, or this is like a first time event, 211 is fantastic. Or if a child is feeling like they don't want to talk to their parents and they want to call 988, I think as long as every number is thrown out there everywhere, one of them will be appropriate.
One of the things that I think of is the New Canaan Behavioral Health Alliance is a giant safety net, all of whom have a phone number, all of whom have a contact point at some point. My question, actually, as long as I've got the mic, is on the programs in junior high versus high school. I was involved with a group called the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship, which was focused on keeping kids in school in high school. After a couple of years, what we found was the junior high was this touch point where you actually can impact decisions and particularly negative behaviors. Tell me about that from your standpoint.
Sure. So program-wise, we do high school leadership and a middle school leadership program in partnership at the middle school with Matt Blank, who's the SRO at Saks. Currently, he's only teaching it twice a year. In the fall, he does a program with 8th graders, and in the spring, he does it with 7th graders.
Okay.
But I know additionally to that, the schools have their own leadership councils and everything. And we definitely believe that leadership, or even now that there's SROs at the elementary schools that we can start partnering with, teaching leadership skills to young people helps give them those protective factors of difficult decision-making later in their life,
Yeah, good.
introduction to substances, risky behavior across the board, right? So, as we're growing and developing, we definitely see room for all of these, leadership development programs with our community partners,
Great.
police, instructors. And
Right. And I would also add that, like, the social emotional education that they're getting at the schools through Mark Brackett. That is, again, those are protective factors in terms of
Right.
delaying substances later, also probably for, absenteeism and things like that. So I think the school district is hitting on those areas. Where we come in is educating the parents on that so that they understand. I mean, the school is doing it, but that's sort of our role to try and have those conversations so that, and I personally think the link of parents understanding that if you really do work on the social emotional and why it's important, it really will affect your kids later on. So I think that sort of leading people to understand the point is very important. Because I think that is missing, because everyone hears about Mark Brackett, they hear about social emotional, but they don't hear about some of those other things that happen later on in high school that parents. So I think there needs to be more of a continuum in that conversation.
John, the question.
John?
Yeah, I was curious, because some of these topics are so important and because the students age, that I wondered whether you're starting to put together, you already have in your own minds, how often these important topics need to be presented, let's say at the high school, and then in coordinating with parent forums, because the kids are aging, and it's nice that Chris Herron's been able to come multiple times, but it seems to me a lot of these things, it's the repetition, and it's also maybe presentations to the middle school, and then 3 years later, it's a presentation at the high school, and it's reinforcing things for the kids.
We definitely see that, and we talked about when I first started, just the tempo of programming that needs to be circulated every few years because the audience changes, right?
Yeah.
The nice thing about Chris Herron and our great partnership with New Canaan Public Schools is we met with, not only Susan Bliss, but we talked to the health department leaders of the schools to say, what's the conversation you're already having in health class? What are other, kind of today's THC levels, and what information do they need to kind of introduce to their programming within the schools that we can help them find those resources for. The Chris Herron program, right? It comes with the presentation, but it also comes with access to some of their information and programming for teachers and administrators and community organizations, as well as Paul Reinhardt has something coming up. He's part of our coalition. Johnny's Ambassadors and, legalization of marijuana and THC levels that you'll see in the national news. We definitely have those conversations with our coalition, of which the schools are on, the police are on, we're on, just to get that up-to-date information of, what our communities and what our kids are facing right now, which is absolutely frightening.
Can I ask a question? One of the things that we talked a lot about when we were evaluating what happened with the survey results was this group in the middle, the moms who are, what do we call them, sandwich generation, and they're dealing with their kids and trying to understand what is going on in their lives, and then also taking care of their parents. Do you have programs that are targeted at that group, or do you have any?
We're actually just received 2 emails from Waveney regarding kind of that sandwich generation conversation, which we're going to be meeting, I think, in the end of May or beginning of June on that. We found really the programming we did after the adult survey was kind of parents under stress, which, responsive educational program that we're doing, we had already had that on the calendar just because we had heard that, right? And we partner with the PTC leadership in order to come up with our program topics. We haven't kind of leaned in and pushed into that sandwich generation area yet. But we did have a program this spring on parental stress.
Right. I know that CARES did have sandwich generation prior to both of us being here, that they did have.
Maybe that might be something to revisit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Raquel, do you have anything to add? Because you're on you're the liaison. Oh, sorry,
I had
Tom.
a question. A couple charts here showing a decline in teenage and underage drinking and vaping. I think these are national numbers, but do you observe trends going this way or this way on the various bad stuff that kids get into in New Canaan? Or I don't, Colin, you've been there almost 2 years, maybe enough time to
I know.
get a trend, and Maureen 3 years, but.
Yeah, I do think the national trends are showing what is happening in many of the communities. I'm actually in a different community, and I know that Westport and apparently our claim to fame is that our alcohol rate is higher than all the surrounding towns. So we're winning that game. But I do think the trends overall are going down just because of, things that happen policy-wise, the drinking age being 21, more education. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the link between cancer and alcohol, and if that's going to change drinking rates as well. What I'm concerned about, and this is what keeps me up at night and Colleen up at night too, is cannabis, specifically edibles for children. And then the snooze, and it's, okay, kids, smoking rates are going down. Zyn is this pouch that can be put into your mouth and it's hidden. And I think, and there's, it's, a lot of kids are doing it. It is nicotine, yeah. So this is, they're hooking a whole new group of children to nicotine in a different way, it's a format that you don't, it's a vehicle you don't see, so kids can hide it more easily. So those are the things that, yes, things are going down, but there's new, products being created to,
We're old enough to remember dipping and everything and being able to hide that and just brushing your teeth during the day. So then they came into a little pouch, so you didn't have to brush your teeth. It was just almost like a piece of gum that you could put in there. So there's just, and all the devices for vaping now, from USB connectors to whatever, it just makes it very easy to hide. The last point I would make is we need to do, I think, as a community and as a commission, do more in education, because if you look at the results in New Canaan Community Foundation survey, and I spoke to Andrew Gerber about this, they were just really shocked that with all the marketing and everything, that the percentage of people that actually knew about the program was relatively small that came out of the survey. So whatever we can do to bring more attention to it in our local papers and educate, I think is
On the Behavioral Health Alliance itself, or?
Behavioral Health Alliance and the Civil War program, in terms of this percentage that came out of the survey was a small percentage of people that knew about it. So I want to continue that marketing.
One of the things we've talked about, I think with some frequency, is how do we start to kind of be less reactive and more preventative, right? And I think you guys do a good job of trying to get a pulse on what that might look like. I'm curious if you're hearing anything new or seeing anything of how we can get that upstream piece and kind of more in the forefront, or what kind of topics like are helpful to start socializing, or kind of what I don't know if I'm being totally clear on my question, but that idea of like, what are you hearing? What are you kind of getting a sense that people want to hear more of or are struggling with because they want to try to hit these things sooner? Like the middle school kids, like don't even, what do they need to be hearing now? And you mentioned some of the emotional stuff, but is that enough? Is there something else? Tough question, but.
No, I think there's always room for improvement with introducing ourselves as an organization to the younger families that come to town, because that building community part, right? Having that network of people that you can rely on and talk to and trust, and then partnering with an organization that could bring something to fruition to do a program, have a conversation, be more educated on it. There's room for improvement on that, right? So in the fall, we worked with all the preschools with the Dr. Eliza Pressman, 5 principles of parenting, right? Just trying to partner with them early and get them more kind of acclimated sooner rather than later within our community to understand and know kind of how we uniquely work versus other communities around that. I think also the Unplugged model is a nice model of concerned parents in a non-judgmental way, rallying around a topic of conversation that is relevant and important. Before Maureen, Maureen was already with CARES, I wasn't, they did a whole program on sports and pressure and sports and everything. we're almost starting to hear that again from that next generation of why is my 8-year-old having to be on travel, whatever, at this age? And it's not feeling good to me as a parent, and it's not feeling maybe necessarily good to the child themselves. Is that unplugged model of there are other like-minded people like you that maybe aren't as brave to make that decision on their own, that, the sports and the pressure is not adding to the health and wellness and, mental health of my family and my child. So there's areas similar to that model that just says, let's come together as a community in a non-judgmental way and talk about things that are concerning us. And I'm definitely hearing that again
Yeah,
for next year.
right. That would be.
As a marketer, I passed by the high school and junior high for the last 2 weeks in talking about distracted driving. The one thing that stuck with me, at least, was the wreck that sits physically at the entry to the parking lot at the high school. I'm looking for a mnemonic that would be a wrecked person or something that we could be set forth in front of these kids on a going basis. Say, this is what you can look forward to if you don't behave or if you
I think
abuse.
I would,
straight mom.
yeah, I would probably worry about, I think probably my biggest concern around some of the, just in general, and this is having worked in emergency departments and all the prevention models being, if you don't do this, you can achieve and be successful. That idea of hinging your mattering and worth on if you don't do something is, to me, extremely concerning. Just because it's got to be grounded in something else and more in your value as a human and your ability to contribute and make a difference, right? As opposed to like that achievement and success and and so you guys had done the program with Jennifer Wallace, which was so powerful. A little bit curious of how that conversation's kind of continued, but that idea of like it's like, it's not about the bad consequences, but it's rather like your ability to really thrive. It's the thriving piece and the flourishing.
I think it makes it more personal, right? You can't say, all of us don't do substances equals to a better chance of success, but it's more finding your own leadership skills within you that are already there that we can pull out and start developing, right? Finding your own purpose and mattering at a younger age.
Yeah.
Good thing, I know Jennifer Wallace is coming out with a second book on mattering.
That's
More specifically than, her first book was the overachievement culture, and now she's definitely leading into that mattering.
The purpose conversation is an interesting one. Like having this idea of like a big P purpose that overarches your whole life, but then also those little P moments of your day to day, like what fuels you and what gets you moving in the morning. And I think it actually becomes an interesting conversation for our seniors as well.
right.
From what is driving that morning wake up. It's not your alarm clock, right? It's the difference that you're making in somebody else's life. It's that social connection. It's one of the things we kind of chatted about is, and I keep bringing it up, it's something I'm passionate about, but that idea of age gap relationships, not just with people in your family. Yes, it's special to have a relationship with a grandparent, but that idea of, do you have a friend that's 20 years older than you? Do you have a friend that's 20 years younger than you? And that potential impact is really big. I'll send you a couple of things, Jim, as we're looking at it.
One pitch, we send it to the group of the minutes, that's great.
Yeah, I definitely can, but that idea of, and there was another study that came out, like elders, I think it's over 75, only like 23% are in a mentoring relationship with someone younger than that. And that's probably contributing a huge piece to their isolation, right? But so that idea of, and I guess this gets to a little bit to my question of that prevention, like how do we just get further upstream of like, you matter. Like, it's that, you know,
I think from prevention too, and then I'll have Maureen go, you do need to start with the good news, right? The good news is the levels are going down. The good news is most of our kids are not using substances at, you know, middle school ages, right? They did have a vaping situation. It is a small percentage, right? So I think starting with that and building on that is a positive spin to all of it. I don't know what you're gonna.
No, yeah, no, I think that social emotional moves into mattering, and that can be sort of the joint. And like from what I've seen, also coming outside and looking in at New Canaan, we have an infrastructure here that actually works really well. I think CARES in the last 2 years since Colleen has been here, like our reach has grown just because of the infrastructure that's already there and the messages that we're able to get out. I think something like Mattering could be something that we start, again, socializing around with this infrastructure that we had. I actually was working back in the day, like I was a parent rep for the Mark Brackett Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence. And I was working with a woman in Westport, and we were trying to get like Westport to be the social emotional capital of a town, but you know, when we were working with the Y and working with, but you know, COVID happened, so that, but like maybe that's a concept or something that we start thinking about Mattering, because with the second book coming out and something like that, and it comes down to family conversations, right? All of this stuff that we're trying to do is really, you know, or staying put conversations, or, you know, so like, I think there's opportunity to strategize and then maybe think about that.
This is such a large issue. I mean, we could spend
Right,
the entire day talking about it, but I think we are as a commission looking for things that we can go upstream.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I was just gonna ask if we only have a few minutes left. Would you tell us a little bit about the youth survey and where that stands? I know it stands.
Right, and I know
aside.
Lauren was here, you know, a month or two ago. We have a meeting on the calendar next week with Dr. Lutzi. So you probably all know Susanna Lewis from Silver Hill has resigned, and she's still on the calendar invite. So it's supposed to be Lauren Patterson, myself, and Susanna Lewis with Dr. Lutzi for that. And then we just have to determine their level of partnership with us to do that. And, you know, go from there.
So at this point, you're not formulating a survey yet, or you're really just early
We
stages?
really wanted to see, you know, kind of where the public schools are looking at this from a partnership standpoint. Whether it's going to be, you know, something that's optional and administered within the schools, or if they're only going to offer us more focus groups and the ability to collect data that way. And from there, we'll have to then generate, you know, I think the private schools are ready, willing, and able to partner with us, but that's where we're at.
Okay, well, that's very helpful.
Susanna's been replaced by, or the interim at least, is somebody named Moore, and I'm thinking her first name was Liz, but I can't remember that.
So
I
maybe she'll
just
be
got
at
a
the
thing
meeting instead of
yesterday
Susanna,
saying
right?
Yeah.
Good, well, maybe she can,
Right.
yeah, can contribute to that.
So, you know, we'll stay in touch. I mean, we want to do it, so.
Melissa's got a question.
Yeah, no, just I think it's this has been such a great conversation, and I'm so grateful that you guys are able to present to us today. Commissioner Alyssa McKenzie, sorry, I was supposed to say at the top. As we talk about Mattering and focus groups, I just want to again beat a dead horse on the families that they're sort of the sandwich generation. They're more and more common. Families like my own that have an adult disabled child who does not live independently. When we talk about isolation and loneliness, I think that that is a center of a lot of circles in the Venn diagram. I think that the town has come a long way in supporting the younger children, especially if they're in K through 12 here. But once you hit 22, it is a cliff for a reason, and more for various reasons, including just the egregious defunding of programming after 22. Like, these are adults who don't have meaningful necessarily work or activities that are age appropriate in town, and that is just to me such a need that we can fill, and it's a really exciting one when we're thinking about intergenerational. Have you I know you two have done a lot, and CARES has done a lot for families with children with disabilities, but is this something you're also thinking about as you're sort of looking down, you know, the next few years?
you know, we have partnered with the younger group, the Inclusive Together, who's been doing a great job, you know, in introducing that to our community. I did just attend the Star Lighting the Way Gala, and that's not an organization that we have partnered with in the past. But thank you for putting it on our radar and, you know, thinking about that, because I know they're an incredible resource in our community.
Star enables, they're great. It's hard to get into the programming. They don't have enough funding. And so there's a lot of families who do private pay or they're doing nothing. And I know that they were very excited to fill out the survey and try to make their voices heard. So yeah, I think there's a really great opportunity to pull in families that maybe are less likely to feel like they belong and they matter in the New Canaan community.
Thank you for that.
All right, we gotta wrap it up. Thank you so much. This has been really helpful and we really appreciate it. So our next meeting in June, we're going to have, Scott Hobbs is going to come and talk about housing, and we raised some really good issues at the last meeting, and he said he would be happy to clarify the different types and kind of what's going on in New Canaan. So that'll be an interesting meeting. And I think if anybody else have anything else?
We had one last, very quickly. We had talked about having a committee put together to work on our top threes and
Right, and Peter's going to provide
working on
leadership
that.
to that. I think we'll probably be approving another subcommittee at our next meeting, so.
Gotcha. All right, motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for asking.
Tomorrow, we'll buy your tickets.
Oh, my God. I'm just.